And here to talk about their venture capital company and how it has investors betting that a silent film is going to make some serious noise in the music industry are the co-founders of Creative Media Investments, Lee Evans, who has a background in venture capital, and John Brand, a 35-year veteran of the music business. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
This is very interesting stuff. Venture capitalism for the arts. How did this idea get started?
Well, it's actually started when John and I met in Los Angeles back in 2010. And we just started talking about the problems within the industry. Obviously, John has a very long career in the music industry. And we spent, I don't know, it was over probably a couple of days, but primarily one evening talking about the problems encountered, the way that the industry is changing and so on and so forth. And then we looked at, well, how does that get fixed? And then we started putting the pieces together, and within a short space of time, we'd come up with a plan on how we could put a model together to fix the problems and make musicians successful.
What were some of those problems that were initially discussed?
Well, I mean, the industry's been changing for the last 10 years, really. I mean, the independent label started, obviously, way back in the 70s, but over the last 20, 30 years, the independent labels have been bought up by the majors, and the majors have had their own sets of problems, and they're now down to four, nearly three. And it seems to me that the artists get signed, they get one shot, and if they don't achieve the sales figures that the major labels need to operate, turn a profit, they get dropped and they get left behind. And now many of those artists are obviously they build a fan base during that time, and many of them have the opportunity to move forward and have careers, but they're not given that opportunity by the major labels. So we identified two things, really. One is finding new artists, like a silent film, but mostly giving artists who have been in the situation with the major labels, have come out of contract for one reason or another, have already built a fan base, and given us the opportunity to really understand the potential of that band.
I was going to say, what kind of artists are you looking for here? I mean, is it a solo artist? Obviously, other intellectual properties involved here, filmmakers, writers, these sorts of things. Young, untested, slightly proven, veterans who've been around the block a couple of times. What are you looking for?
Well, the model that CMI has, you can build any of those into the model. Primarily, partially tested would be great, because it gives us something to analyze and see if we could multiply that, where that could go. But in terms of particular artists, it's across the board. I mean, we've got some, primarily most of them have been sort of British acts that we've looked at, but we do have some American alternative acts. We've looked at an American Idol runner-up, and just last week looked at a local pianist who has an interest in doing corporate entertainment, as opposed to sort of mainstream pop and rock and so on and so forth. So it really is across the board.
So how does this work? Let's say you first of all, you find someone, say the pianist, say someone, who says, I like that person, and how many other people have to be convinced that that person is good enough to be an investment?
Well, first of all,
as many as possible.
Well, we like it. We have to like it to start with.
Yes.
But more than that, we need to, see that the artist has potential. So we have teams of people that we've worked with over the years, and we've formed a relationship with a company in New York called M Theory, it's run by two guys who are very experienced from the Warner model, and they help us with marketing, and they help us with a lot of the decisions that need to be done. And they basically, if somebody comes to us with an artist, we will approach the marketing companies that we've worked with and do a certain amount of due diligence. We'll figure out realistically what the potential is of that artist and how many people actually like them. And most artists have already released records. There's quite a lot of information available from radio play and sales figures and concert tickets and what have you. So it's quite easy to get some sort of pretty accurate assessment of where they're going. And then, of course, you've got to look at the music that they're bringing us. I mean, part of our model is that we'd like to look at finished product as opposed to investing in the artist at the beginning. We'd see ourselves as investing in the records. So the artist will bring to us a finished record and say they want to put it out, so we look at the marketing potential of that.
But what if you have a young Neil Young who wants to put out a different kind of record and become a different kind of artist almost every 5 years, reinvent themselves? How do you get past that, A? And B, how do you convince investors that this is the world of art, that he who paints a pretty picture over here may be entirely unrepresentative there? I mean, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. And I think, unfortunately, at that point, we would probably pass on an artist like that because we are responsible for giving a return on the investment. And so we couldn't sort of squander on something which is such a gamble. A lot of what we do is reducing the risk, which is why sort of partially tested artists are great, because you've got something to analyze and to project where you can take it forward.
How do you approach investors? Do you give them timelines, benchmarks? What do you tell them?
Well, there are timelines which are a lot better than a lot of other investments available. We can be looking between 9 months and 2 years to see a return. We don't have a lot of sort of government red tape to go through with this particular industry, whereas others do. We only invest into a finished product, so the long haul of making the album, which can be a year, 18 months, 2 years, that's eliminated. So we've taken that chunk of time out, and then you're down to sort of 9 months to 2 years before the investor can see return on their investment.
I think the package touched on this, but as far as ownership equity is concerned, what do I get when I invest? How long do I get that?
The present arrangements that we have are for 3 albums with particular artists. So that is not a set space of time, and then there are options to re-up that deal at the end of the 3 albums.
Okay, but again, as far as the rights of the band, or the musicians in this case, or the artist, the writer, the filmmaker, they keep rights for their property? How does that work?
Well, they actually assign their rights to the LLC. So the band is a percentage owner of the LLC, the investor's a percentage owner of the LLC, as is CMI. So the 3 parties come together to form a company. The band assign their rights, the investor assigns their money, and then we put together the project, put together a strategic marketing plan for that, and launch the project.
And it goes for a certain period of time, and if everyone wants to re-up or redo, they go ahead and do that.
Yep. Yeah.
Is it difficult to get bands to not just understand all this, but to see this? Even in the package, the one I think the drummer was saying, it's difficult to think of this as a business. But these are artists. They're not supposed to worry about money.
That's true. And for the most part, artists tend to be artists. This particular band are very smart guys. They're well-educated university graduates. So they do understand it. And I've known these guys for like 7 years, and I've been managing them for 3 years. So when I first discussed the idea with Lee, and I knew the position that the band were in, I knew that this was actually a band who would understand the model. For the most part, it's down to having discussions with the artist managers. It's got to be, the manager is very much a part of the team, and the manager needs to understand that this is a different way of doing things, and they come to us because they know that the advantages. I mean, we offer a much higher rate of return to the artist than the labels would ever give. More than double, in fact.
I was going to say, this seems like the old days. It was the label, it was the creative guys, the A&R guys are out there beating down the bushes trying to find these things. Then you've got the management, you've got all this stuff. It seems like it's all rolled into one here, isn't it?
It is.
And that's got to be a good thing. I would think it would take some pressure off the band, but is there also other pressure on the artists? They got to deliver.
Well, they do, but before they are selected, they pretty much have delivered, because we would be looking at a finished or an almost finished product. So, we just look at the unit of the band, and because they've got to commit to a lot of touring and a lot of hard work. But the product, the album, is very, very close to finished before we start spending money on it.
Is this the kind of thing that is best suited for music as opposed to maybe fine arts, filmmaking, writing?
No, but I mean, we believe the model can work with everyone. We've been looking at different areas. Certainly filmmaking is very much based around this model anyway, where you've got investors investing into a movie, which tends to be an LLC entity anyway. So our investors would invest in much the same way as they would normally do. The difference between what we do from a film point of view is that we try to use our art departments and our musicians and our filmmakers and put a little team so that when the film's being made, we have our music in the film and we have our
Interesting,
creative
yeah.
people involved in
Yeah.
the filmmaking process, and vice versa. You know.
Keep it all in the family. in
Try
other
to
words.
keep it in the family, which offers opportunities to the various companies.
Real quickly, as far as those who are investing so far, who you're targeting, who you're getting, are these angel investors? Are these corporations, venture capitals? What are you getting?
So far, they've been individuals, and it's been primarily from Europe. So we've been bringing sort of European investment into here in Arizona. We would obviously look at anybody that is interested in diversifying their portfolio, because it's not a model that's widespread, or it's relatively new. So we would look at angel investors and anybody that's looking to diversify or just change from the same old investments that they've been doing.
About 10 seconds left.
And recognizing really that the rate of return is much quicker than the average investment.
All right. Well, good stuff then. We'll stop it right there. Thank you both for joining us. We appreciate
Yeah, it's
it.
a pleasure.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.